those who packed up and ran away / moved out without saying anything. How did you do it and why? I had a terrible childhood growing up which turned into being really wild as a teenager. Then I watched all my friends die of violence, drugs or suicide, and most of my family died either in a bottle or addiction hole. My mom was pretty unreasonable and violent, and sometimes violently unreasonable, and I just really struggled a lot in general with having no real stability or support in life and always wondering what I was supposed to do with it. I was scared to death after a series of events happened in the street, mostly of going to prison, but a little bit for my safety / mom's safety, so I said duck it and moved to the other side of the country. I basically packed what I couldn't live without into a rental and sold my car. I made up my mind to leave on a Wednesday and left on Saturday. I seriously wondered multiple times if I had gone insane and or was doing something irrationally crazy. Was borderline homeless while I did my 2-year degree in trade school, and now I have my own place with my cat and dog, own my car, and am back in school again for a 4-year, at minimum, program. Have stayed out of trouble almost entirely, and the times I didn't, I was able to walk away and learn my lesson. And the lesson is that I finally have too much to lose. Been here 5 years now. Never going back. Edit. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone for the love, support and awards. I was embarrassed at first, but after answering some of your questions it seems more cathartic in a way. I hope if anyone reading this is in the same situation you'll find a way to bet on yourself, even if it means feeling like you're taking on the world to do it. I promise it's worth it, and that you deserve to live a life by your own standards that brings you your own happiness. But it's not something you find. It's something you build brick by brick, and when you're done, you look at it and see yourself the way you designed it. Worth it. You have a strong spirit. It helps. Don't lose it. I'm glad everything is good now for you. I did it twice. The first time I was 16 and told the family I babysat for about everything I had to deal with at home. My narcissistic mother was verbally and physically abusive and refused to believe me / made excuses for him when I told her what my stepfather did when she wasn't around. The family arranged a time to come pick me up and told me to pack what I could so it would be a quick move. It was a tense couple days, hoping my mom didn't notice the boxes in my closet and under my bed and the stuff that I had already packed away while I was at school. When the mom showed up I told my mother I was moving out and she screamed things at us while we carried out my stuff. I later, stupidly, moved back in when my mother insisted things would be better and convinced me I had no other choice. At 17, after dealing with the abuse again for a while, I finally had enough when she went off on me in front of my then boyfriend, now husband. We just walked out and he said he would take me to his parents' place to cool off for a bit, but his mom offered to let me stay with them until I could figure something else out. We went out that night and I bought some new clothes. My mom so graciously offered that I could come back if I signed a contract she wrote up promising an even worse life in that house. No thanks. Edit. Clarifying that it was mom that wrote the contract. Because I was tired of someone constantly physically attacking me, I spent over 2 decades just waiting for the next episode of violence in my life. If it wasn't my dad trying to beat me up, it was one of my siblings. And if I retaliated or did anything, then I would get beat again worse. When I was really little, like in kindergarten, my dad would make my brother and I'd fight each other until we drew blood for his entertainment. And even though he was younger, my brother was bigger than me, so it was always my blood. He would incite violence and encourage my siblings to be violent towards me. It culminated earlier this year when my sister attacked me and purposefully attempted to scratch my left eye out to blind me. I have some scars now on my face around my eye socket, but luckily I wear a lot of makeup, so they are always covered up. But my parents blamed me for it because I let her get close enough to touch me. So I decided I was done being a part of their family and left. I was lucky that my best friend had space to take me in. I had already been partially living with her, staying over a lot, and had some basics there. So I just grabbed my important documents and left. I had to abandon pretty much all of my possessions, which sucks and really gets me down sometimes. but the last few months of living away from them and having no contact has been the most peaceful of my life. I don't creep around the house anymore trying to avoid everyone out of fear. I still have a problem with listening around corners when people are talking to try and gauge based on their tone if they are in a safe mood to cross paths with, but it's getting better. I'm not afraid that every single thing I do is going to set someone off and prompt them to attack me again. When I was really little, like in kindergarten, my dad would make my brother and I'd fight each other until we drew blood for his entertainment. And even though he was younger, my brother was bigger than me, so it was always my blood. He would incite violence and encourage my siblings to be violent towards me. It culminated earlier this year when my sister attacked me and purposefully attempted to scratch my left eye out to blind me. Is your father a reincarnated Roman emperor trying to revive gladiatorial sports? Exclamation mark. WTF. This reads like a writing prompt. Not that I doubt you. I know firsthand how batshit crazy parents can be. Has played enough Civilization that he probably thinks he is. I'm about the age now as he was when he was making my brother and I do this. And I absolutely cannot grasp why he thought this was an okay thing to do. Or where he got the idea. Or how no one found out and stopped him. Me and my older brother had yet another fight. He tried to slam my head through the wall. Despite not even being in the house at the time, and despite the fact that my brother started it and I ended it by getting away from him and out of the house. My dad took my brother's side, always did. Brother was always his favorite, and when I protested and pointed this out, ended up having an argument with my dad. This got heated, and he told me to get out. So I started leaving. This set him off anymore, and he ended up screaming at me, as far as I'm concerned I only have one son, and if you leave, don't bother coming back. So I left, and starting looking into new living arrangements. Just under 2 weeks later I went back during the day when no one was home with the van. Got my stuff, and left my keys. Even after we started talking again, it took 2 years before he apologized. Then the next falling out he used the same wording. Only one son, and I laughed in his face and said, that's funny. That's exactly what you said last time. He denied it ever happened. Now it's been about 2 years of no contact. I've never been happier. It took me a long time to realize just how selfish, narcissistic and manipulative my dad is. And myself and my kids are better off now having to deal with it or be around it. I'm really sorry and proud of you for having the courage to leave. Just know, it's not about you and never was. Your father will always look back and regret how he treated you. Narcissists never let go. Honestly, I should have done it a long time before. The ironic part to me is that my dad actually has 4 sons, and the other 2 and their mother left him in the dust long before me and my brother came along. Since originally going NC, there was a brief moment where I thought we could get back on speaking terms. I had a minor car accident and some of the paperwork was sent to his address as he reached out. Then went down the route of I'm not sure what I'm supposed to have done. So at this point, 64 years old, I have no expectation he'll change. Unfortunately, that also means I don't think he'll regret anything, as he doesn't think has a problem. I left a house of roommates when I was in college because they were breaking into my locked room, and I once found drugs on my dresser after one of their parties. Waited till they went home for Thanksgiving break, and out the door I went. Everything in the house belonged to me besides what was in their own bedrooms. Went to a nice 1-bedroom app with only me to worry about. I had cleared it with the landlord first, just hadn't told the roommates. I wasn't worried about rent because only 3 of us were on the lease with about 10 people living there, and only the 3 were paying all the bills. It was worth every penny to eat the cost of breaking the lease early. Did you get 10 different voicemails or texts saying bruh, WTF, exclamation mark, apostrophe. I told him I wanted to go to the library. He never let me out of the house except for things like that. Instead, I walked across the street to the courthouse, where I went before a judge and got a temporary protective order, TPO. 2 sheriff deputies served him later that night, and he had a few minutes to pack some stuff and leave. I spent 24 hours packing everything of mine. Never slept or took a break. hired a moving company, and had them put everything in storage. I packed a suitcase, took my cats, and moved into an Airbnb. He was incredibly abusive. Had threatened me with death and more when I had tried to leave in the past. I knew me moving wouldn't deter him. He did everything in his power to destroy me, and in many ways, he succeeded. He destroyed my career and reputation. Badly harassed everyone I knew, especially family and close friends. My life was left in tatters. But you know what? I was free of him. I started a new life. And freedom is so much sweeter after that. After 6 months at 8 different Airbnbs, he kept finding me. I finally moved into my own place. I was totally off the grid. Paid cash for everything. But my life was finally entirely my own. 6 years later, I have a new career in a different field I love. I'm with a man that is nothing like that man. He is lovely, kind, and gentle. And you know what? That post-stalker is currently dying of cancer. Karma is a bitch. So, protect yourself. Plan ahead. Get a new phone number. Don't leave anything to chance. And then enjoy your freedom. Good luck to you. Edit. To that one person that thinks I exaggerate. It started off small. After I finally got away from him, I was absolutely amazed by how twisted my thinking had become. Gaslighting is real. It began small. He invaded my life after I had just ended a 6-year relationship. By the time I realized I was in trouble with him, it was too late. He falsely became everything I wanted out of a man. He lied about everything, even his real name. He was extremely abusive. He love-bombed me. All the while, he was collecting all my information, my social security number, all necessary documents. He started applying for credit cards in my name without my knowledge or consent. He would collect my mail for me, so I wouldn't have to waste my time. So I never saw the bills, or realized I had new cards. He spent over $100. 000. It's called financial abuse, like I wrote. By the time I found about any of this, he was already living with me. He slowly turned me against everyone I cared for and loved. He labeled them as manipulative, unkind, etc. He would get jealous when I spoke to others. And eventually, I stopped trying without realizing this was a part of the abuse. The abuse started after he moved in with me. First slapping and pushing, then choking, punching, and sitting on my chest until I passed out. He was 65 and like 275. I was 55 and about 110. He would punch me so hard, I would see stars. Sometimes it would knock me out. Extremely painful abuse. There were many nights I couldn't sleep or move because every part of my body hurt. He would lock me in rooms for hours or days. He wouldn't let me leave rooms if we were fighting until I agreed with him and listened to everything he had to say. When I realized I could just agree, he saw right through that and would just make me sit there and listen to what a great boyfriend he was for several hours. After a while, I wasn't allowed to leave the house unless he drove me and went with me. I couldn't have passwords on any of my electronics and he monitored everything. I could talk with anyone unless it was on speakerphone. He blackmailed me. He had photos of me scantily clad. He created accounts on Seeking Arrangement with my photos, then took screenshots and told me he would put them on the internet, send them to my family, friends, and clients. I tried to leave a couple of times. He found me the first time. The second time I went back voluntarily because he threatened my cats with physical harm. When I went back, he threw me on the ground, kicked me with full force several times, held a knife to my throat, then raped me anally, all the while telling me he loved me. I never once called the police. Want to know why? He had me believing I would be arrested as well if I called them. The abuse was horrific, and I suffered in silence and completely alone. I was afraid he would harass the people I loved, which he eventually did when I got away, so I kept quiet. I thought he would eventually let me go if I could get him to fall out of love with me or just be a bad girlfriend. That only increased the abuse. I was afraid of being embarrassed by him. Another reason I stayed. I think that qualifies as abuse. U/Staircased. Also, Staircased. This was truly only a portion of what he did. Remember this when you think someone is exaggerating. Think about the people that are telling the truth and have empathy instead of the few that lie or exaggerate. Glad you got out safe. A lot of women unfortunately don't. Yes, there were times when I was sure I was dead. There was no doubt in my mind, if he had gotten his hands on me after I left, that I would be dead. I still feel extremely lucky that I got away and for my new life. Thank you for your response. I was moving away from my extremely abusive mom and the memories of my pedophile dad. I packed 2 bags, threw them out of my window, bought plane tickets for me and my kid, and had my cousin pick me up and take me to the airport. I told my mom we were going to Pound, a drum class thing, with my cousin. I blocked my entire family and talked to my best friend and my sister, who I was flying to. Eventually I checked my phone and unblocked my family. They were all screaming at me trying to find out where I was. I called the police and told them what was going on in case they tried to file a missing person case. I was terrified. I was sad. But my life is so much different now. I didn't stay with my sister long. Less than a month before her grandma kicked me out. Now I'm living in a different place. In my own apartment. With my own things. My kid is happy and not seeing abuse every day. I'm in therapy. I'm still struggling. There are things we need that I definitely can't afford. But I'm doing 100x better than I was in January. Edit. Thank you so much to the people who have commented with words of encouragement. It's still so hard to sort through trauma even in therapy. Every day gets a little lighter. Also, thank you to the people who have offered or asked about anything I need or to get my son something for Christmas. Being on our own is so new to us. You all are amazing. I'm just a random stranger whose opinion means nothing. But be forever proud of your actions and your improvements. Everyone reading your comment is proud of you. Sometimes strangers' opinions mean more. My friends can tell me they're proud of me all day, but it doesn't mean they really are. Thank you. I left my fiance this way, but I wasn't running from him. I was running from his home. We lived in his father's house. His father was constantly sexually harassing me, and on top of it all, his brothers would harass me when they came home from college. One night it all came to a head. I had been clean from alcohol for a while and was dead set on continuing that path. One of the boys came home with friends and began pouring me shot after shot. It's my fault for taking the drinks. I should have been stronger. I ended up getting too drunk to stand and knew it wasn't going to end well. So I hid under some blankets and texted a friend asking if I could stay with him for the night because I just felt unsafe. I started to doze off when the boys found me. One of them picked me up, placed me on the porch, and they began discussing what they were going to do. Long story short, they took turns on me while my fiance slept in the next room. We had separate bedrooms, and I was so drunk I don't remember much of it. I'd complained to my fiance about this behavior in the past, because this wasn't the first time. I'd yelled at him previously that I was sick of his brother coming into my room and touching me at night, but he would just shrug and say he didn't know what to do. There had been many times where I'd woken up to the brother in my bed. I'd tell him no, but he'd keep going. I hated it, but no one was willing to listen to me. That night in particular absolutely devastated me. I take full accountability for putting myself in that position, but I knew there was only one solution. The next morning I immediately packed my things and texted my dad asking to live with him. I didn't say a word to anyone, and when they noticed me missing, the father begged me to come back. My fiance didn't say much. Packing up and leaving without warning was one of the best decisions I've made in my adult life. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.